Hello everyone. As a part of ECMO Simplified series, today we are going to see about veno-arterial extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. VA ECMO is used as temporary mechanical circulatory support and simultaneous extracorporeal gas exchange for acute cardiorespiratory failure. Let's see about the physiology of VA ECMO. Oxygen delivery, which is otherwise called as DO2, is the amount of oxygen delivered to the peripheral tissues per minute, or the product of arterial oxygen content times to the cardiac output. The oxygen is present in the blood as oxygen dissolved in the plasma and bound to hemoglobin present in the red blood cells. Here you can see how to calculate the DO2 in a patient who is on VA ECMO. DO2 during VA ECMO is calculated by multiplying the native cardiac output into arterial CaO2 plus ECMO blood flow into perfusate CaO2. Here, DO2 is controlled by cardiac output, hemoglobin concentration, hemoglobin saturation, and dissolved oxygen in that order. Therefore, if DO2 is insufficient, it is necessary to calibrate it in the above order to efficiently increase the DO2. We have already seen how to calculate VO2 in the previous video. If you haven't seen, you can watch it using the description given under this video. Oxygen consumption is controlled by tissue metabolism. The normal DO2 VO2 ratio is 5:1. If DO2 is severely decreased, there is insufficient oxygen to meet metabolic demands. Anaerobic metabolism occurs and finally leading to lactic acidosis and cardiogenic shock can occur. This occurs when the DO2 VO2 ratio is less than 2:1 ratio. Therefore, the overall goal of management is to keep DO2 at least twice the VO2 and preferably 5 times the VO2. ECMO is indicated when other treatment modalities cannot sustain the DO2 VO2 ratio. If DO2 VO2 ratio decreases due to the decreased DO2 in cardiogenic shock, ECMO can increase systemic blood flow to replace the reduced cardiac output. Cardiogenic and obstructive shock reduces not only the cardiac output but also the CaO2 in the blood due to the ventilation perfusion mismatch. Here, ECMO can correct both the decreased cardiac output and CaO2 of the blood. In septic shock, DO2 VO2 ratio decreases due to the increase in VO2. Moreover, if the septic shock is combined with the decreased cardiac contractility, DO2 is decreased, further reducing DO2 VO2 ratio. Hence, ECMO can be considered. VA ECMO increases CaO2 and systemic blood flow and eventually increasing the DO2. The goal of VA ECMO is to restore organ blood flow and provide adequate tissue oxygenation while awaiting recovery without damaging the lungs or circulation. VA ECMO can be performed using peripheral access and central access. The indications for VA ECMO are listed here. The contraindications for VA ECMO are listed down here. The access sites for VA ECMO are right atrium, right internal jugular vein, femoral veins, iliac vein, SVC and IVC. The drainage sites for VA ECMO are aorta, femoral artery, axillary artery, common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. Now, in this circuit configuration, we can see the various types of VA ECMO configurations. Here in this video, you can see the deoxygenated blood is drained from the femoral vein by the pump and gets oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood is returned back through the femoral artery. Here, from the right femoral vein, the blood is drained and then gets oxygenated and then pushed through the axillary artery. In this configuration, the deoxygenated blood is drained from the femoral vein and the right internal jugular vein, and then it is pushed to the oxygenator to get oxygenated, and then the oxygenated blood is returned through the femoral artery. In this configuration, the deoxygenated blood is drained from the right femoral vein and the left femoral vein, gets oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood is delivered through the femoral artery. In this configuration, we can use the Avalon cannula or the double lumen cannula from right IJV to drain the venous blood from SEC and RA and then gets oxygenated. Then it is delivered through the femoral artery. This configuration is draining the venous blood from right IJV, right femoral vein and left femoral vein, gets oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood is given back through the femoral artery. We use triple venous drainage cannulas here for optimal drainage. This is the commonly used cannula requirement chart for peripheral VA ECMO according to the patient's weight. This is the commonly used cannula requirement chart for central VA ECMO according to the patient's weight. This table shows you the required blood flow rate for patients on VA ECMO according to the body weight. SAFE score. Survival after veno-arterial ECMO score. This was developed jointly by ELSO and the Department of Intensive Care at the Alfred Hospital. In this score, the following patients were excluded: patients receiving ECMO during CPR, patients not receiving AV ECMO, patients with primary diagnosis of respiratory failure, patients not on first run of ECMO. This score is used in patients with refractory cardiogenic shock in whom veno-arterial ECMO is being considered. This score predicts in-hospital survival in adult patients after VA ECMO. Why we are using this SAFE score? ECMO is a resource-intensive endeavor with high morbidity and patients should be selected carefully. So survival estimates may aid the decision process using this SAFE score, and it will be handy when we are explaining it to the patient relatives. The limitations of SAFE scores are: it only predicts survival to hospital discharge and does not predict neurological function or functional status, which may be important considerations. The score was derived from a cohort of patients who were placed on VA ECMO and likely excluded many patients, which we mentioned before, who may have had different survival rates. The patients receiving CPR during cannulation were not included in the derivation of the SAFE score. Therefore, the score may not apply to these patients. In this table, you can see the SAFE score interpretation. The SAFE score is available in my ECMO calculator app, which was designed for Android mobiles, which can be downloaded from the Google Play Store. The commonly used rest lung ventilator settings during VA ECMO is shown in this table. The lung ventilation strategies of VA ECMO are listed here. We should maintain adequate lung aeration by preventing atelectasis and maintaining normal functional residual capacity. Prevent overventilation of the lungs, bearing in mind that when there is minimal flow through the cardiopulmonary system, there may be little or no native gas exchange even in the setting of normal lungs. In the setting of severe lung dysfunction on VA ECMO, use a strategy similar to the VV ECMO. FiO2 should always be maintained more than 50%. Complications that can happen during VA ECMO are listed here. Vascular injury during cannulation, bleeding and coagulopathy issues related to VA ECMO, infection, neurological events, differential hypoxia, limb ischemia, thrombotic circuit, air embolism, and mechanical failure. Special concerns when we are running a VA ECMO are differential hypoxia, limb ischemia, and LV unloading. Let us see about differential hypoxia first. Patients who have concomitant respiratory and cardiac failure who are on peripheral VA ECMO with the return cannula inside the femoral artery are at great risk of developing differential hypoxia. It is also known as Harlequin syndrome or North-South syndrome. Patients with poor respiratory function eject poorly oxygenated blood from the LV into the ascending aorta, where it mixes with the fully oxygenated blood flowing retrograde from the ECMO circuit. At this state, the upper body, including the brain, is perfused by poorly oxygenated blood, while the lower part of the body is supplied by the fully oxygenated blood. As the left and right coronary arteries originate from the root of aorta, the myocardium is susceptible to hypoxia. Differential oxygenation phenomenon, also known as differential hypoxia, Harlequin syndrome, or North-South syndrome, on VA ECMO in acute cardiogenic shock patients with coexisting acute lung injury, potentially leading to the cerebral hypoxia. This animation shows the simulation of blood flow dynamics when heart can eject blood opposite to the retrograde blood flow from the ECMO circuit. Here you can see heart is not generating any flow, so only the ECMO circuit is producing the blood flow rate, resulting in full oxygenated blood going to the upper and lower extremities. In this animation, you can see heart is generating 0.5 liters per minute per meter square, resulting in supplying deoxygenated blood to the coronaries as well as to the upper extremities. When heart is able to generate more than 1 liter per minute per meter square, Harlequin syndrome happens at full percentage, where it results in brain coronaries will be getting deoxygenated blood. It is important to monitor oxygen saturation in both hands for patients receiving peripheral VA ECMO to identify differential hypoxia. If it occurs, ventilatory settings are increased to maximize lung oxygenation to oxygenate the blood coming inside the heart. Or VA ECMO circuit may be converted into a VAV configuration with an additional return cannula placed in the right internal jugular vein. The VAV configuration is shown in this circuit diagram, where the venous blood is drained from the right femoral vein, gets oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood is given through the femoral artery and the right HAV to prevent differential hypoxia. Limb ischemia is commonly seen in peripheral VA ECMO, where the return cannula is placed in the femoral artery. The following will compromise downstream perfusion of the leg: peripheral vascular disease, large caliber cannula, multiple attempts at vessel punctures where hematoma is formed, dissection or perforation of a common femoral artery. This limb ischemia can be prevented by introducing a distal reperfusion cannula connected with the same return cannula as shown in this picture. It will avoid developing limb ischemia, compartment syndrome, and rhabdomyolysis. Compartment syndrome occurs when excessive pressure within the muscles builds to dangerous levels which can decrease blood flow to the nerves and muscle cells. Acute compartment syndrome is a rare complication of ECMO that could be occurred as a consequence of developing ischemia or reperfusion impairment of the limbs. Rhabdomyolysis due to peripheral ischemia can result in loss of limb, renal failure, or even death. These are some of the cannulas which can be used for distal reperfusion cannula. This is the algorithm for distal limb perfusion management. It's advisable to use NIRS and Doppler to monitor distal limb perfusion during VA ECMO. If the trace on the limb NIRS seems less, pedal Doppler signals should be evaluated. If signals are present, the NIRS sensor should be replaced. If the signals are decreased or absent, the arterial distal perfusion cannula should be placed or evaluated and replaced if dysfunctional. If limb compartment syndrome is suspected or the limb has been ischemic for more than 6 hours, fasciotomy should be performed. VA ECMO has multiple effects on the left ventricular myocardium. The decrease of venous return and the volume work may reduce the wall tension of the heart and subsequently the LVEDP and the LVEDV. The increase of mean arterial pressure and reduction of venous pressure improves the pressure gradient and then the myocardial perfusion. The increase of blood pressure increases the afterload and the pressure work of myocardium affecting the Frank-Starling law. Overall, RV preload will be decreased, RV afterload will be remaining as unpredictable, LV preload will be decreased, LV afterload will be increased, and the coronary perfusion also will be increased. These are all the changes of ventricular loads and coronary perfusion during VA ECMO. Based on these physiologic interactions between the native cardiovascular system and VA ECMO, minimizing dose of vasopressors for reduction of afterload, fluid removal for reduction of preload, and keeping a good amount of ECMO flow for adequate tissue oxygenation will let the native heart rest while balancing tissue oxygen supply and the demand. The most common problem during VA ECMO is LV distension. Left ventricle distension and the lack of LV unloading are one of the primary problems related to VA ECMO in the patients with LV failure. Though ECMO provides right atrial drainage, it cannot drain the left side of the heart directly. The blood, which bypasses the circuit in addition to the bronchial arteries circulation, continues to fill the left atrium. The failing LV is unable to eject due to the high afterload created by the ECMO circuit retrogradely. These factors combined lead to a full LV and elevation of the left atrial pressure. Patients will in turn develop pulmonary edema and ongoing pulmonary hypertension, which is deleterious to the right ventricle as well. LV distension is a common problem on ECMO and is often under-recognized. How LV distension happens during VA ECMO? The source of blood to fill the LV are myocardial blood flow from the Thebesian veins and the bronchial blood return. Systemic venous return that is not drained effectively by the ECMO venous cannula because of inadequate sizing. Aortic regurgitation, intravascular volume overload due to the excessive fluid administration as it may contribute to the increased LV filling pressures. If the transvalvular gradient is too high, the aortic valve will remain closed throughout the cardiac cycle, leading to blood stasis in the aortic root and potential thrombus formation too. And the aortic valve is unable to open and eject the blood. So blood stays within the LV and heart is unable to completely eject all the blood collected inside. This happens particularly in patients with peripheral VA ECMO cannulation. Why LV unloading is important? During VA ECMO, the arterial outflow cannula generates retrograde flow towards the aortic valve, resulting in high afterload on the heart than a normal physiologic state. This marked increase in afterload leads to LV distension, increased LV wall stress, and increased myocardial oxygen demands. The distended LV and elevated LV pressures will subsequently result in elevated left atrial and pulmonary pressures, leading to pulmonary edema, possible pulmonary hemorrhage, and subsequent systemic cerebral and myocardial hypoxia. For all these reasons, it is important to properly vent the LV during VA ECMO. How to assess LV overload? Clinical evidence of significant pulmonary edema by chest X-ray findings, elevated CVP, elevated PA or PCWP, echo findings of LV distension, reduced EF, intracardiac thrombus, intermittent or absent opening of aortic valve, cardiac catheterization findings including high LV filling pressures and stagnant contrast in the pulmonary arteries, refractory ventricular arrhythmias, LV EDP is greater than 25 mmHg. Venting of the left side can be performed in a variety of ways. Two main categories of LV venting are shown here. One is surgical venting and percutaneous venting. The surgical venting includes inserting a vent into the right upper pulmonary vein with tip terminating in LA or LV pulmonary artery, LV vent in LV appendage, LV vent in LV apex. The percutaneous venting includes transaortic venting. Transaortic LV venting is a technique which is performed in peripheral VA ECMO where a variably sized from 5 to 15 French catheter is inserted via the femoral artery contralateral to the ECMO arterial cannula through the aortic valve and into the apex of the LV. This catheter is then connected to the venous access of the ECMO circuit. Transaortic venting has the advantage of rapid insertion and is less invasive than surgical venting, although the potential risk of damage of the aortic valve can happen. Using a transeptal puncture, an iatrogenic left to right shunt can be created, allowing blood aspiration by the venous cannula placed in RA and consequent LA decompression. Atrial septostomy has been shown to reduce inotropic support and facilitate weaning from ECMO easily. Transeptal cannulation, in which a catheter is inserted via the femoral vein under fluoroscopic or echocardiographic guidance into the LA through the interatrial septum and then connected to the venous drainage limb of the ECMO circuit to provide decompression. An advantage of transeptal cannulation is that a controlled ASD can be tailored to the size of the patient, which has less risk of closure. Finally, due to the elasticity of the atrial septum, the residual ASD following cannula removal is usually small and amenable to device closure under fluoroscopy. Transpulmonary venting involves the insertion of a variably sized, usually from 10 to 15 French catheter, via the right internal jugular vein into the pulmonary artery, which is then connected to the access line of the ECMO circuit. In this table, you can see various LV unloading strategies for VA ECMO with their own advantage and disadvantages. Here, additionally, Impella is used. Impella is a non-pulsatile axial flow pump that is placed through the aortic valve, pumping blood from the LV into the ascending aorta. Importantly, unlike IABP therapy, Impella does not require ECG or pressure triggering, facilitating stability even in the setting of arrhythmias or electromechanical dissociation. It may be used to treat LV distension because it decreases LV diastolic diameter and pressure as well as the PCWP. It also increases global systemic blood flow and reduces LV stasis on echocardiography and improves the imbalance between oxygen consumption and oxygen delivery. It also has favorable effects on pulmonary congestion and right ventricular performance. Hope this video helps you in understanding about VA ECMO. Stay tuned for more topics under ECMO Simplified series. Thank you.